Bolivia is at the heart of South America. Its people are a mix of Quechua, Aymara and Guarani. Its colonial past, Catholic Spanish. It extends from the high Andes to tropical jungle. It's culturally, ethnically and geographically very diverse and potentially wealthy. But it's one of the poorest countries on earth. In 1985, after decades of dictatorship, democracy was restored. There followed a period of stringent economic reforms. But despite all these changes, Bolivia is still poor. 2/3 of Bolivians live on under $1 a day. 1 in 5 children is malnourished, and the infant mortality rate is one of the highest in Latin America. Bolivians suffer from ill health, have short life expectancy, and in recent years inequality has grown. In 1997, the current government, led by President Banzer, decided to start a national dialogue with the people to set out its priorities for integrated development.
Bolivia convened all of civil society, workers, business people, media, military, judicial, political parties, and we looked at 4 areas of Bolivia: social development, economic development, institutional development, and the fight against drugs, to find some basic consensus on what directions we should be heading in those areas.
At the same time, the World Bank was reviewing the effectiveness of international aid policies.
The whole international community in the last decade transferred 10% of GDP to Bolivia in aid. And yet, poverty has hardly changed. And so here we had a huge challenge. And in the first consultative group meeting, we all agreed that this was a shared responsibility. This is not Bolivia, it's not having any poverty alleviation. This is also us, the donor community, is not having any poverty alleviation impact in Bolivia. That's when we realized we have to look at the way we're doing things. And we realized, of course, the best way is to go to our clients and say, okay, if you had a blank slate, how would you reinvent the World Bank in order to help you to reach your goals?
The Bolivian government and the World Bank have met regularly, putting together a strategy which they hope will increase economic growth and improve the lot of the Bolivian poor. A new experimental plan's been in place for a year. It's called the Comprehensive Development Framework, or CDF. The World Bank's representative in Bolivia explains.
The Comprehensive Development Framework started, I think, because of a dissatisfaction with the pace of poverty reduction, given all of the efforts that had been made in development assistance in the past decades. And it grew out of a recognition that in addition to creating the conditions for economic growth, there also needed to be an attention paid to the institutions so that the government programs could be more effective and so the development assistance could be more effective.
For a second time since it was elected, the Bolivian government has held a process of consultation with the people. The government and the World Bank are keen to emphasize the democratic nature of their consultative program.
What we've never had is poverty alleviation plans and programs that are not designed based on the whims or ideas of 3 people and the city government, but rather by convening everybody from each municipality, from each one of the regions, and having them have a say on how do we go about in the fight against poverty.
To encourage people to take part, the government put out an advert.
Diálogo es
believing that we can change.
That just having good intentions isn't enough. Let's get together and make better decisions.
To participate is to make decisions.
Don't let others decide your future.
Dialogue is fighting against poverty.
Sí se puede. Bolivia tiene la palabra. Diálogo 2000.
Education is one of the cornerstones of the new approach by the government and the World Bank. Under the Comprehensive Development Framework, or CDF, all projects will be coordinated so that the ambitious reforms embarked on by the government can come to fruition. The Deputy Minister for Education explains.